Hey, I'm Lainey, this is Sean. In this video, we're going to tell you how much money we spent hiking the Camino Norte in 2019.
We hiked for 47 days. That was the total length of our trip from Irún on the border of France and Spain through San Sebastian, all along the Camino Norte to Santiago, and the 5 or 6 days that we spent in Finisterre and Muxia. And we spent exactly $3,702 total between the both of us, which is $1,851 per person, which when you divide it by 47 comes out to $39.38 per person per day, and that's how much money we spent.
You can spend less money if you walk at a quicker pace. On average, people spend maybe 35 days walking the Camino Norte, and that's from Irún to Santiago. We walked really slowly. We did about 21 kilometers on average a day, and that included our rest days we just wanted to spend in a city. There was a day we walked 9 kilometers because I was sick, and there were some days we walked maybe 12 kilometers because Sean was doing some work. So you can definitely do this in fewer days.
Yeah.
That's why we want to give you always a per day breakdown of how much we spent.
Yep.
So $40 per person per day.
You are going to spend roughly what we spent on accommodation, food, health and hygiene, and coffee, alcohol, and gear. So we're going to talk about roughly those 6 categories and break down how much we spent and why we spent that amount on the Camino Norte.
We know how much we spent because we kept track of every single dollar on a spreadsheet. As soon as it was spent, whether it was booked online, swiped our credit card, or tapped our credit card, or with cash, we would take out our phones and open our Google Sheets app and input our information and how much we spent, including the category, into that spreadsheet.
I made a really basic Google spreadsheet that just had a couple of things. I'm not good with spreadsheets, and I gave it to Lainey and she made it insane. So it's got formulas and it correlates and it like updates in real time as you're adding stuff, which is really fun to watch your per day, spending shift and go, oh, we bought a really expensive dinner. Oh, we slept outside. So if you want access to this, just go to our website, aroundist.com, sign up for our newsletter, and we will email you a link to download the spreadsheet. You can make it as crazy as you want. You can change the categories. You can make it real basic, but it's really fun. We loved having it, and you don't have to download an app or be online. It's just an offline spreadsheet. You open up your phone and put in what you spent.
Our most expensive category that we spent 41% of our total budget on was accommodation.
It's albergues, donativos, municipals, and hotels and Airbnb type of things. We spent a total combined between the two of us of $1,532, which is about $760 per person. And again, the per person per day,
The
is
PPD, per person per day.
Per person per day for accommodation for our 47-day Camino Norte trek was $16.31.
Our most expensive accommodation was any hotels, which was about somewhere between 30 to 50 euros per person. And those were in the big cities like San Sebastian, Santander, Santiago, anything that we wanted to stay in a central location so we could explore. There are sometimes albergues in these places, and they're often really small or just really inconveniently located. So you don't have to spend as much as we did. We would sometimes splurge on a nice place because we were splitting it amongst 4 of us. So 120 euro place is only 30 euros per person, which...
That was rare though.
Yeah, really rare.
120 was super rare.
I mean, once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna probably spend, if you get a hotel, around 50 to 60 euros, or if you get a large place, but it's rare.
Yeah. So our cheapest accommodation though is often your donativos, which range from free, but please pay money to the donativos. $5 minimum if you're getting a bag.
€5 minimum.
Yeah.
If it has a meal.
10.
And again, it varies. These are not for-profit places. They're not trying to scam you. Try to leave what you can. If you don't have it, you don't have it. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
If you have a little more, if they have a cat, give them an extra euro.
If you're also getting 2 meals, like a really nice breakfast and a really nice dinner, maybe even 20 euros if it's just really great. So do pay what you can on these donativos so that they can stay in business. But all of the municipal albergues on the Camino Norte cost somewhere from 60 euros to 10 euros, which is a pretty good deal. And some of them are really small and some of them are really large. So if you do plan ahead and just sometimes get there early and partake in the bed race, you can save money in the municipal albergues. Private albergues on the Norte cost anywhere from 10 euros to 15 euros, depending on the amenities that existed in those private albergues, as well as if we were getting a private room. Private rooms are sometimes 20 euros, sometimes 30 euros, and that's for two, which means 10 to 15 euros a person. So there's two of you. Sometimes it's actually more economical to get a private room than to get two bunk beds.
Yeah, and a couple other ways that you can save money. We didn't camp at all. Camping requires a totally different packing list. You're carrying a lot more gear and cooking stuff and a tent and all that. We didn't even have sleeping bags with us. We just had little sleep sacks. So camping was off the table. We met some people, they saved a lot of money with that. Grouping up is probably the easiest way to save money on accommodation. Again, not all the time, but sometimes it can be cheaper for 4 or 6 people to get a really nice place instead of all of you getting really crappy bunk beds.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we easily could have spent more than 20 US per day. It would have been tough to spend less than 10. And again, that's gonna come out to 1,500 US for both of us for the entire trip, which is fantastic.
Our next biggest expense was dining. And right now we're gonna talk about dining and groceries in one.
Food.
All the food that we ate. And that came out to $1,533, which is $16.31 per person per day.
So if you were paying attention, pop quiz, that is the exact same amount that we spent on accommodation, $16.31. So for 47 days of accommodation, $16.31. For 47 days of food, literally like everything we ate.
All 4 meals.
Yeah,
You know.
breakfast, lunch, second breakfast, third breakfast, other breakfast, your breakfast, her breakfast was $16.31. So again, that's roughly 80 or 85% of our entire budget for the Camino was sleeping and eating, because you do 3 things on the Camino. What are they?
Sleep, eat, walk.
Repeat. You can hone in on your accommodation budget and your food budget, and they're both less than 20, you're gonna spend less than 50 probably per day for the entire Camino.
So in that food budget, we broke that down into dining and groceries, and our dining is significantly more than our groceries. On dining, we actually spent 34% of our entire budget in eating out, and that was $1,276 total, which breaks down to $13.58 per person per day. And that's on eating out, which meant our breakfast, second breakfast, lunch, a lot of our dinners.
Other breakfast.
Anytime we bought food in a place that was prepared.
Yeah, so if we stopped and bought a sandwich, if we had pasta, if we had a pilgrim meal. Dining, I would say largely we rarely cooked our breakfasts because of the way that the albergues are set up. The kitchen's closed, you're up at 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning, 8 in the morning. And we often prepared our own lunches. So the dining was almost totally dinners, pilgrim meals, and then like breakfast snacky type things like, oh, let's stop and get a tortilla. Let's stop and get a coffee and a croissant or something.
So in that dining, that does include some coffee and some alcohol, as long as that was consumed with a meal, such as a tortilla and a coffee with our breakfast. The other category in food was groceries, and groceries cost us $256 total, which was $2.73 per person per day. Pretty good, and that includes all of our snacks, such as candy bars, lots of candy bars, any granola bars, apples or fruit, any kind of cacahuates and peanuts or trail mix.
We even got ice cream sometimes.
Yeah, so in our groceries, that also includes any kinds of meals that we bought for a picnic, such as bread and cheese and jamon to make sandwiches. And we were splitting this amongst the 2 of us or sometimes amongst 4 of us, so we were able to get a bigger variety for a cheaper price, which is nice if you do have more friends. And we did cook some of our dinners. Cooking dinners is something that if there's more of you in a bigger group, it's more affordable because you can get a bunch of different things, all of you put in €2 and share it. But if they're cooking for one person, maybe not as economical as going out to eat and like getting some pinchos.
Yeah. Like Lainey said, the easiest way to save money on a pretty big part of your budget is just cook more. Don't get that, €8 sandwich during the middle of the day. Go and buy the stuff and make 3 sandwiches.
Yeah.
So, but if you're not really pinching pennies, dining out's not going to break the bank, but
yeah.
you can save a couple bucks.
Yeah. So we broke down our expenses of our alcohol and our coffee separate. And those two things, the reason they're separate is you don't have to spend them. That means that it was a coffee that we just wanted more coffee that day and all we were getting was coffee. Or it was a glass of wine that we wanted at a bar, or a bottle of wine that we bought just to share with people. So these are things that weren't with meals.
We spent on coffee combined for the entire trip $155 US.
$1.65 per day per person on coffee. And our alcohol cost is $163.48 total for both of us, which is $1.74 per person per day. And this is again just alcohol alone, not if it was with a meal.
Yeah. We drink wine basically with every dinner. We are people that like to drink with food. If that number seems really low, it's because we kind of tried an experiment along the Camino. A lot of times with a pilgrim meal for 10 or 12 or 15 euros, you'll get a bottle of Tinto, just table wine. We didn't include that as part of our alcohol because that's part of dinner. But we played a game where you're walking through these beautiful wine regions and these like great little local kind of agricultural areas. We tried to buy the cheapest bottle of wine every night.
Well, under €2.
Under €2, sometimes under €1. And we loved it. There were only 2 times where we were like, ah.
Every other time it was a pretty good bottle, like very drinkable.
Yeah,
wine.
Surprisingly good.
The easiest way to keep this cost low is to drink local. We would also really like to drink vermouth, which is something that's really common in Spain.
Good.
Yeah, so instead of drinking your mixed drinks and your high alcohol spirits that you do in other places, just stick with things that are lower in alcohol, local beer, local wine, and your vermouth, and you're gonna have a lot more affordable experience with your alcohol.
Our third most expensive category is what we call gear. We had a pretty good packing list for the Camino. However, you make mistakes. Sometimes something rips or it doesn't fit the way you thought it would. For me, it was my shoes, funnily enough. I was trying out some barefoot shoes. I didn't test them enough before the Camino, and they didn't quite fit well, so I ended up buying a pair of Approach shoes, which I love, at the Decathlon store. They were some Quechua bargain basement Approach shoes for about 40 euros. So that was on the list. Another one is we've had our hiking poles taken away on the plane. We fly with just a carry-on, so we don't check our bags. And if you're not, this is important, if you're not sure about your hiking poles, if they're really expensive, carbon fiber or anything like that, you really do want to check them, because we got them on the first flight, like from the US to Spain, in a carry-on, no problem, but our connecting flight is where they took them away from us. So again, if you're gonna bring expensive poles, check your bag. We didn't, so we bought hiking poles when we were in Spain, which is part of our gear.
So we each bought a set of hiking poles. Mine were about 20 euros and Sean's were maybe 24 euros. We just got cheap poles because we know that after using them nonstop for 45 days, like they just kind of fall apart. Really hard on my poles. Also meant that I was constantly buying new sets of tips for my hiking poles. There's so much concrete on the Norte, and Sean is careful and I am not, and so mine get really worn out. And so total on gear, we ended up spending $153 together, which broke down to $1.63 per person per day. Yeah. So that's for things like
it was like sunglasses, shoes.
Oh yeah, I lost my sunglasses. I needed to buy a new pair.
If you want a hat, you lose your hat, or you walk away from lunch and you're like, oh, my jacket. On the Camino Frances a few years ago, I walked away from dinner and we were well into the next day. And I was like, my sandals. I'd walked home barefoot and hadn't realized it. They were just under the table like an idiot.
We didn't walk far home. It was attached to the albergue, but he still walked outside.
Yeah, so you're gonna lose stuff. Things are gonna break. That was our gear category.
Our Our next biggest category is health and hygiene. And so we spent $91 on that together, which was 97 cents per person per day. So about $1 on everything that we used categorized as health and hygiene.
And this is like a really small category in the grand scheme. It's about 3%, 2.5% of what we spent on the whole Camino. But it's really important. Things on the list include ibuprofen, KT tape, medical stuff, band-aids, things like that. Sunscreen is on this list. We included laundry as health and hygiene. We took ibuprofen preventatively. We would have some in the morning. Again, we're not doctors. This is not medical advice. But we're in our 30s, and you get a little sore if you hike all the time. So we took ibuprofen. It worked out really well.
We bought big tubes of sunscreen. We went to like 4 different grocery stores before we found one that was on sale, so that it was 18 euros for 2 big containers.
I don't recommend it. Get a smaller tube so you don't carry 2 huge tubes for most of the Camino, but it was cost effective.
Yeah.
We also had a little zinc tin, which we'll link in the description. It's one of our favorites. Yeah, it's all good.
All good sunscreen. It lasts forever. We each had a tube, and we still had some left over for our faces and necks.
Amazing. Yeah. And then you'll want to get something just kind of run of the mill. Again, if you check your bag and you feel comfortable checking sunscreen, go for it. But it'll be about 10 euros for a sunscreen.
So in health and hygiene, this also includes laundry, which meant some laundry detergent that we bought. That also included, I think, 2 or 3 times that we actually paid to have our laundry done and in a washer and a real dryer. And some of it was because it was like pouring rain and everything was muddy. And some of it was because we had a bed bug scare and we wanted to wash everything on high heat. Bed bug scares happened. We had to buy garbage bags and some bug spray to kind of kill everything. We didn't actually have any problems, so hopefully there was nothing that died in our in our stuff. So one way you can save money in health and hygiene is just to make sure that you do hand wash laundry. We brought a bar of soap with us, and we also used the laundry detergent that we bought. You just everyday wash your own clothes. Save a lot of money.
It would add up. If you were getting laundry, if you were paying 5 euros or 10 euros to do laundry every day, that would be way more than we were spending. The things that kind of doesn't show on this list is we brought something called lamb's wool on the Camino. This is not our first Camino, and we learned very quickly that blisters are a huge problem for a lot of people on the Camino, and you can spend a lot of money buying like Compeed or all these weird fixes and moleskin and stuff. What we did is these Canadian women gave us this. It's literally just lamb's wool. There's lanolin in it,
and it's so soft.
So soft. You tuck it between your toes. You put it in hot spots. We bought it before we left on our trip, so it's not reflected on this, but it's like a couple of bucks. Super lightweight. That's the reason we don't have all these like blister things on our health and hygiene is lamb's wool.
So we'll link that in the description below too, the brand that we really like of that. Last things that we did in our health and hygiene is probiotics. I have problems with dairy, lots of dairy in Spanish food. Definitely do something if you need that for your stomach, probiotics. And we also bought mosquito spray because about halfway through getting eaten alive by mosquitoes in summertime on the Norte. So make sure you bring some spray if the bugs like you.
Again, mostly for her, the Probies, we call them Probies, and mosquito sprays. But
because I'm a human bug shield.
And all of that, $1 per person per day. So it's still very affordable. And that honestly, those categories, accommodation, food, dining, groceries, coffee, alcohol, and our health and hygiene is like 95% of what we spend, even more than that. So there's a handful of like miscellaneous categories. We have them as like tours and museums, fun, transit. We spent $10 total together on museums for like cathedral entrances.
The Peace Museum.
The Peace Museum.
Guernica. Yeah.
If you want to do more of that stuff, that's completely up to you. I rented a surfboard once. We were walking past a guy with a surfboard rental, and I took my backpack off, put on a wetsuit, and went surfing. That was $15. I also got a really weird allergic reaction from like a plant that brushed against me, and I like got it was weird.
So I gave him a Benadryl, he got really sleepy, fell asleep, we couldn't move Sean. So instead of trying to walk 15 more kilometers, we took a cab.
So all these crazy little $10, $5 categories, just miscellaneous, and it added up to a couple of bucks a day.
Yeah, and that's, again, transit. We took a train out of town one day instead of walking out of Gijón. That was a couple dollars, and we could have walked, we just didn't want to go through the concrete industry that day. There was a couple ferries that you have to take on the Camino. 3 ferries, and those are things that you can't really avoid them, and they're $1 each possibly. So we spent like $13 on those ferries together.
Total. So it was like $6.50 per person. It was, again, it's like 10 cents a day. It's fine. That's honestly what we spent. That's the $3,700 was mostly accommodation and food, a little bit of health and hygiene, a little bit of coffee, a little bit of alcohol, and then gear that you replace along the way. So
Yeah.
we were just under $40 a day. There's a few things that we didn't include on this list because either you'll take care of them beforehand or you might not use them. One is our cell phone bill. We have an international plan, but it's the same as the one back in the US. If you're coming from Europe or from, that's gonna be up to you. Ours is $70 per person, but that's an expense that doesn't really relate to the Camino, so we don't put it on. We didn't include travel insurance on this list. We spent $80 for coverage for the whole thing.
For 60 days, actually. This was 60 days of coverage.
60 days. So I guess we could have included that, but some people get it, some people don't.
Well, we took our Camino as part of a longer trip, so
Yeah.
for us, our insurance was just the overall trip, not just the Camino Norte.
Mhm.
Again, you don't have to have travel insurance, but we were shipping some gear to Santiago to pick up. We wanted that insured. We have some nice camera stuff, so we wanted that insured. So you don't have to do that. It's just a nice option, especially for something that's so physical, because travel insurance often will cover things that happen if you do end up having to go to a doctor.
We went with Alliance
With a Z.
And it was less than $2 a day, which is great. So if you really want to amend your thing there, buy the travel insurance before you go so it's all taken care of.
Yeah. There are 3 important things that aren't on this list at all, and some of it is because we didn't spend any money there, and some of it is we just didn't categorize it. So our flight to Spain, we did not put on this list because it was part of a bigger trip that we were taking, our RTW trip. Flights also really range in price depending on the time of year you go and what type of airline you want to fly.
Yeah.
So again, you want to budget somewhere between $400 and $1,500 for a round trip flight. Maybe it really depends where you're from.
Our trip from New York to Madrid was $250, $260 each. But again,
Budget airline.
yeah, budget airline. We picked a thing. We didn't check bags, so we didn't include the number because it's really just money that we spent on the trail.
On the trail. The other thing is gifts and souvenirs. We didn't buy anything because every ounce counts in your bag. So if you're going to be buying any kind of extra, like your shell, or a hat that you don't wear on the Camino that you're only bringing home, or a commemorative plate or mug,
Yeah.
those things are something that would be your gifts and souvenirs, and we didn't spend any money on that category.
Yeah. The third thing that we don't spend money on and you shouldn't spend money on is water. There's water spigots everywhere. Fill up your thing. Water's free on the Camino and it's good and it's high quality, especially if you have, a filtered water bottle. So we didn't spend any money on water.
Yeah.
It's just, if we were drinking it, it was coffee or it was wine.
Oh, or it was Aquarius. We did buy some electrolyte type of drink, but that was under our grocery category because that was something that we would maybe buy a big bottle and drink it over a few days. It's kind of like Gatorade. It's called Aquarius.
She loved it. That's our Camino Norte budget. We spent $3,700 for the 2 of us. Came out to about $40 a day.
Per person.
And we had a good time.
We had a great time. If you want to check out how great of a time we had, go to our playlist on our Camino Norte and you can follow along all 11 parts of our journey and check out how beautiful the northern coast of Spain is. And if you like this video, make sure you subscribe, click the bell below. We've got all sorts of really great advice on different packing lists and different adventure trips that you can take. I'm Lainey and this is Sean.